one.
Good evening. On behalf of Benjamin and Carrie Ann Higginbotham, making space commonplace, we welcome all of you to Spacevidcast and their living room. We've gathered here tonight around the monitors as people of all lands have gathered for thousands and thousands of hours before us to share the light and to share a story. An amazing story, as old as exploration itself, but still being written. And though each of us has our own individual stories to tell, a true adventure emerges when we bring them all together as one. We hope you enjoy our story tonight. Reflections of Space.
Welcome to Spacevidcast, episode 508 for, what is today?
June 2nd.
June 2nd, wow.
It's already June.
Time sure does fly by. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, is beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbotham. Will be your hosts for this show. There was a little thing that happened in space, which was SpaceX, and that kind of dominated the news.
It did?
And because of that, all of the
We're not going to talk about it at all.
All of the other... We're actually not going to talk about it in the beginning part of the show really at all. It shadowed over all of this other really great space news, and I did want to kind of talk about some of these things. Mm-hmm. For example, a lot of people look at the Dragon, they're like, oh, I can't believe we're taking huge steps backwards. What happened to the space shuttle? Well,
right.
As it happens, there actually was a captive carry test. Well, you may have missed this. There was a captive carry test with Dream Chaser.
Yes.
Dream Chaser is... I'm going to call it a next-generation space shuttle, right? It's
space shuttle-ish.
Well, it is a shuttle, right? There's the Dream Chaser right there.
Pretty.
It's much smaller than the traditional space shuttle you would think of, and it's not a side-mounted design like the space shuttle you are
familiar with.
Exactly. This sits on top of a rocket. It would fly up to the space station, carrying humans on board, and from there, you'd be able to do it, disembark, do your thing on the space station, and then it would fly back to space, fly back to Earth, like a plane, like a brick, really, with wings. But you get the idea. The beautiful thing about this is it kind of gets rid of all the bad things that the shuttle had. For example, side-mounted design, where you have the shuttle on the side of the external tank, and you've got all that stuff that can fall down onto it and all that bad stuff. It also gets rid of the solids, potentially. Depends on what rocket you launch it on top of.
Of course.
Not that solids are bad per se. It was really the side-mounted design that was bad. It also doesn't carry cargo with it. So it's designed to bring just humans. And after both the Challenger and Columbia disasters, the boards that did the inspections for that both said trying to do all of this in one vehicle is a terrible idea.
So to keep humans and cargo separate.
Separate, right? They shouldn't go up together. They're two different things with two different needs. They need two different vehicles. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to design two different rockets.
Right.
It just means that humans go up on one payload, cargo goes up on another payload.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the idea behind this. This sends up humans.
So this is humans only. It would never do cargo, right? Is that what you're saying?
I believe so. Right now, this is humans only. It's not designed for cargo.
Okay.
Although I don't know why you wouldn't, assuming you might be able to just not put humans on it and stick cargo in there.
Well, I guess that was my differentiation. Like the Dragon module, right, is
both in theory, but right now it's cargo only.
Right. But it's designed as opposed to this. I guess that's my question.
This is designed for humans.
Okay, that's my question.
So that's kind of the point. So that happened this last week. That happened on, I want to say, the 31st.
I believe it was, yeah.
Right, and that's kind of a huge milestone for being able to bring humans up.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a captive carry, so it was tethered to that helicopter you saw in the beginning the entire time. But still, baby steps. You got to test out your vehicle and make it go. Mm-hmm. Also, for those of you who remember this company, Sea Launch launched. The thing with Sea Launch is, here's the thing with launching rockets. You want to get it kind of as close to the equator as you can.
Right.
You get the best benefit from that. And most of the equator is covered in water. Mm-hmm. So Sea Launch has this giant launch barge. It's basically, I think it's a decommissioned oil rig.
Brilliant idea.
They roll it out to the equator, as close to the equator as they can get, and they launch a rocket. So here you go. This happened again, actually, on the 31st.
Yeah.
1.
1.
Liftoff. Main engine is at nominal thrust.
Миссия ответил РС. На связи. Прошла команда контакт подъема. Принято
Begin
контакт
switch over.
подъема.
Liftoff command has acquired.
ILD stabilization is nominal. Propulsion system performance is nominal. Flight is nominal. ILD stabilization is nominal. ILD is now transonic.
Дельта миссия ответил РС. На связи.
Main
Точное
engine pressure
время
is
по
nominal.
Гринвичу. 5 часов, 22 минуты, 59,111 секунды.
Flight is nominal at
Принято 5
output
часов,
seconds.
22 минуты, 59,111 секунды.
Maximum dynamic pressure.
2. Contact liftoff time.
ILD stabilization is
05
nominal.
hours, 22 minutes, 59.111 seconds UTC.
So I hope you were not playing the nominal shot game with that.
Right, right.
I don't know. I don't know why
You
rocket
know
companies
space is going well when everyone says things are nominal.
nominal. Rapid disassembly nominal.
In the most, yeah, thank you. In the most boring way. It's
Oh
terrible.
man. So that's not. They're asking if that was the first launch for Sea Launch. No, it is not. Sea Launch has been around for a while. They actually went into Chapter 11 protection a while ago.
Right.
They had to kind of restructure. There is this is a fun one. Search YouTube. I think it's Sea Launch Rocket Explosion, something like that. It is an epic rocket launch. It basically goes up and starts to spin on the pad. And you kind of see it go boom! And then they just dissolve to a sea launch graphic. It's like everything you don't want to do when you have a problem with your rocket. It was hilarious. But that was successful. Well, it was mostly successful. The launch itself was successful.
Right.
But unfortunately, I'm hearing as of today, the solar array failed to deploy on the
Right.
satellite itself. Now that's not a sea launch thing, right? That's that's an Intelsat thing. The guys who make the satellite.
They're not too happy.
Yeah. So my understanding is the solar panels have failed to deploy. I think they're working the issue, see what they can do.
Well, and it's Intelsat's busy season right now. So they've been trying to pump these things out like every month or a couple of months kind of thing. And so to have this sort of like not mix up, but to have this sort of setback, I suppose. Anomaly. To have this anomaly is really
Actually, it was a solar
rough for them
panel.
right now.
The solar panel failure is nominal.
Okay, yes, the failure is nominal. Great.
This wasn't. Did you put this one in the Mars one?
No.
Or did I put that one in?
I think you did.
So, I'm just going to roll this video. This was something I stumbled across, and I thought, I'm just going to roll this video for you guys. I'd like to know what you think.
They don't ever tell us what they think.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm only going to roll a moment of it. The URL at the bottom of the banner will give you the full video. So here you go. Check it out.
Mars One will establish human settlement on Mars in 2023. In that year, the first group of 4 humans will land on Mars. Every 2 years after that, another group will join the settlement.
Okay, I'm just going to end it right there. I think that gives you a...
The first time I heard this video, I thought she said every 2 weeks, and I was like, oh no, like who are they kidding? Every 2 years is a little bit more digestible.
Well, and that makes sense. That's kind of the cycle of Mars, right? You can't just launch to Mars every week. You need to wait for the planets to kind of come into alignment for that.
Right.
But 2023...
2023, which is, okay, it's 2012 now, so that's in 11 years. We're just gonna, like, have people on Mars, no biggie.
Yeah, I said 17 years accidentally.
You did.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
It's okay. Nobody noticed.
Yeah. So, I encourage you to watch the whole video.
Please,
what was
watch
interesting
the whole video.
Those looked like dragons to me that were on the surface of Mars.
But they said Mars 1 on the side, so that's how you know, because dragons are clean all the way around. There's no logos on dragons at all.
So the chat room is coming back saying we can send humans to Mars now. Okay, but can we? I mean, what vehicle are we sending them
Sure,
up
on a death wish.
Well, no. How can we? What vehicle do they go up on? What spaceship do they use?
Well,
we don't have the vehicle. We don't have the spaceship.
So
no, we can't.
Okay.
Treble says 2023 Mars colony, which is the key here. They're talking about setting up a colony,
right.
Which means you need to figure out food, you need to figure out habitation, you need to figure out the full recycling of water and air and everything
right.
in 11 years. And, the radiation problem of getting there. Look, I'm not saying that this can't be done. This can be done.
There's an extensive FAQ on their website.
Really?
Like extensive.
So you can
Pages.
do this. They could do this. Not only can it be done, it can be done in the timeline by 2023.
Yes.
The thing is, I think we lack the will to do it. And with that, because there's no will to do it, it's the funding. That's the important thing.
Well, some people clearly have the will to do it. Mars One has the will to do it, and Elon Musk. So that's everyone.
It's
right.
not enough will.
Zubrin.
It's not enough will to
Zubrin
generate
too.
the funding necessary to
you're right.
make it there. So, so Mr. Huggy is saying there's no technical or medical reason stopping us. There is a technical reason. I don't know of a spaceship capable of going to Mars today that can carry humans to Mars today, right now, at this exact moment.
That can carry humans to Mars who are still alive when they get there.
No, to carry humans at all. What vehicle would you put humans on to send them to Mars?
Dude, the latest Mars rover is bigger than a human.
But you can't put humans on the Mars rover. So how do you get humans from Earth to Mars?
I meant alive. Okay, go on.
No. Yeah. So, so I encourage you to watch the entire video, and once again, I would love to see your comments. And and as Black Projects in the chat room is saying, it's a lack of money, right? No funding means no Mars. We could do it if we threw gobs and gobs of money at it, just like Apollo 11.
And Zigger agrees with me. MSL weighs more than one human.
But MSL doesn't require life support. MSL doesn't require life support.
You're so definitive in your terminology, and so that's what I'm fighting against.
You're just that's just insane. You don't put someone inside of a fairing and say we're sending a dead body to Mars. It's insinuated that they would make it there alive.
Okay. Well, now that we're clear.
Yeah. Virgin Galactic has gotten their rocket test. Ooh, I have a banner for this.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, hang on.
That's
Virgin
exciting.
Galactic has a rocket test permit.
Okay. From the FA.
From the FA.
FA.
And the rocket test permit, basically, it's a 1-year permit. Mm-hmm. And what this lets them do is actually do rocket tests outside of Earth's atmosphere. So they have the license now.
Outside of Earth's atmosphere. When I read this originally, I somehow magically did not put 2 and 2 together, and I was like, really? Virgin? We're talking about this? Again, they're 2 years out from every single little milestone? What's going on? Explain to me how this is that much more significant than anything else.
Well, it kind of is and kind of isn't.
Okay.
Because...
Good thing it's in our show notes then.
It's just a license to do the tests. Doesn't mean they're going to do them.
Okay. But the article said that they were hoping to launch later on this year, yes?
Yes. So the article does talk about... I'll bring the banner back up so you can click on the... There you go. So,
see, I do read these things.
All right, boom. So the URL at the bottom of your screen, the Reuters... That's a really hard one. Anyhow, it's in our wiki. Go to our wiki and click the link. It's way easier than using these things. Basically, just talk about how they want to do test firings later this year, which would be a huge step forward, right? If they can start firing the rocket engine and doing kind of full loop tests, that means we're pretty close.
Okay. But so really the newsworthy part of this story is that the FAA feels comfortable enough and secure enough in how far along Scaled Composites, who build the ship, has come along in order to do these tests. Yes?
Yes,
is that what
I'm
hearing?
Yeah.
Okay. So, that the FAA isn't like, ha ha ha, good try, you guys. Come back when you build something real.
Yeah. So
right?
the point is they're getting closer.
Okay.
It's becoming more real now.
Okay.
And they have a vehicle. They've been doing drop tests with it. They have the feathering capabilities.
Right.
Now we just need that rocket. It's kind of an important part of the vehicle. It's like that last big thing we need. And once they have that, it'll be hopefully a cohesive system that works, hopefully. And off we go. Remember, it is still an experimental vehicle.
Yes.
So it may not all go as planned. You want those problems to happen now.
Yeah, before you
during
put people.
testing, before you put people on board.
Ashton
that's the design.
Kutcher.
What?
What, he bought a ticket.
Oh, all right.
So it was the one name that I could recall off the top of my head that I know he bought a ticket. Sorry.
So last story before we talk about before we go to break, and then we'll come back with SpaceX because that was the big news this last week and a half or whatever it was. You can now fly a GCubed to space, but for not a lot of money. It's like $350.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very much money at all. And here's what I thought would be fun. And this is just an idea. I'm going to throw it out to the Spacevidcast community, and you can tell me if I'm an idiot.
Under $350, about $320.
$320. There you go. $320. I thought, what if Spacevidcast bought one?
Okay.
And we'll put our little logo on it.
Because it's a cool logo.
It is a cool, right? That's a cool logo right there. Bam.
Right.
Bought one, but then we worked with the community and said, okay, we'll put our logo on it, and that's going to be neat. But what does the community itself want to send to space? Right? Kind of have you get a chance to put something into space. And, maybe we do this as kind of a regular thing of once a month or whatever it is, we send a new little cube up into space with projects from the community itself. Wouldn't that be neat?
That would be neat.
Right, so that's my thought. So
anyone getting married, we'll put your wedding rings up in there.
Ooh, that would be cool.
Right?
Yeah, I want to put my wedding rings up in there.
Right? Some patches.
Yeah.
Maybe you got cute little trinkets you always keep with you.
What do you want to fly in space? And maybe, so now what we're doing is we're taking the cost of this 300. Now, the thing is, I don't think the weight that you can bring up is very high. So it's not like you're going to be able to fill it full of lead and give it back to them and say, hey, fly this. But yeah, maybe we can do some smaller items, and maybe we can spread that cost. We'll have to think about it a little bit more, but spread that cost. So maybe instead of having to spend $320, you can spend like $100, and everyone in the Spacevidcast community kind of contributes, and now you can fly something into space.
Zigger is suggesting lead aerogel.
Whoa. My mind just blew up. I don't even know what that is.
The heaviest and the lightest substance on the face of the planet.
I'm going to register leadaerogel.com now, I think, because I don't even know what that would be. It's like, is it heavy or is it light? I can't tell.
It's both.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I think it's time. I've actually got a cool little wrap-up video talking about everything that happened in SpaceX. So we're going to come back with a wrap-up video of Falcon 9 Flight 3 COTS 2 Plus mission. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
First stage.
Starting pitch check. Structures global. Structures global.
As expected, we're venting.
Copy, structures global. Yeah, we're good.
Copy, structures global.
Starting gravity.
Mission soft, we might want to do that alarm switch.
First stage engines at full power, looking good.
Switching to on-orbit limits. Structures global acknowledged. Acceleration looks good.
We have a solid telemetry link.
Mission software 9.717.
In work.
MECO 1, planned shutdown on engines 1 and 9.
First stage impact point past mid-MECO.
MECO 2.
Nominal velocity at MECO.
Stage set confirmed.
And back ignition confirmed.
Cameras forward. Dragon set.
Dragon is in array deploy. Prop system nominal.
Dragon solar array deployment.
Newfoundland OS.
Solar array deployment.
Solar arrays have deployed.
Well, we can see the solar arrays deploying. This is a great moment. Of course, this is just the first step of a very complex mission.
Power global.
But from all accounts, we have Dragon orbiting the Earth with the solar arrays deployed. We have couple days worth of really difficult challenges before we get to the station. But there's both solar arrays are deployed. Dragon is performing nominally, and we are looking forward to a great mission here to the International Space Station. And everything looks great. It continues to circle the globe. You can hear the audience here. Everyone at SpaceX, we got 1,800 plus people. We're all working really hard, and we're on our way to a great mission. We still have 3.5 days, a lot of test maneuvers before we get to the station. So stay in touch with us at SpaceX.com and Twitter, and continue to cheer us on.
Right there.
Just grab the prize.
So yeah, huge difference between what you see NASA side. They're even mentioning this in the chat room. What you see NASA side and what you see SpaceX side. It's human, right? I mean, I think that's what I like most about the SpaceX stuff was there was cheering, there was emotion, there was love and passion behind what they were doing. And
there were high fives.
This is not to say that the NASA people
there were smiles.
This is not to say that NASA people are not passionate. I
no.
mean, we're friends with a lot of NASA engineers, and they are just as passionate, but they don't air it on NASA TV, right? So that passion is stripped out of NASA TV.
Right.
Make no mistake, NASA. I mean, there are tears, there is love, there is passion behind it, but SpaceX airs that passion. They show
yes.
that how much these people care about getting into space and how much they care about accomplishing this mission. And I think more than anything else, that is what helps to make people outside of SpaceX, people outside of the space community, excited about space again. Because they see other people caring, they see other people passionate, and all of a sudden, they start to care. Right. They start to become passionate because that excitement is infectious. Mm-hmm. And it's really too bad that NASA doesn't air that excitement. Mm-hmm. That they do the canned interviews and the, you know, just the you could tell every time NASA did an interview with SpaceX, you could tell it was SpaceX.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it was driving me crazy. So I'm the video guy, so they're stripping out my color and they're putting these black borders around it. But you know what? Technical problems aside, it didn't matter. In the background, you could hear this cheering, this electricity in the air that was just awe-inspiring. It was awesome. And that is what Falcon 9 Flight 3 COTS 2 Plus, I don't know what else to call that. That is what the mission of the International Space Station was. And yeah, it was pretty cool. There's that I mean, obviously there was a lot more to that mission than the quick little 3-minute wrap-up video that we just showed.
It was very WWE of you.
How so?
You just like, wrap-up video.
That's what happened. There were other really great announcements that came out of SpaceX kind of during this mission that I think got buried a bit because it was all overshadowed by the International Space Station mission. But the big announcement, there were two big ones.
Right.
The neat one was SpaceX now has its first customer for Falcon Heavy.
Yes.
Falcon Heavy is, the vehicle you saw launched in that video was a Falcon 9. It has 9 Merlin engines. The Falcon Heavy is kind of the same concept, main middle stage, but instead of 9 engines, it has 27 engines. It has substantially more lift capability. That is the vehicle that could start bringing humans back to Moon, onto Mars. I actually haven't run the numbers. I don't know.
And where's that going to launch from?
That will begin launching from Vandenberg.
Which is here in California.
Which is here in California. So if you're in the California area and you want to see the most impressive rocket sound ever, well, now I shouldn't say ever. Saturn V probably beat it out. That's probably one of the only rockets that would beat it out.
In our generation.
So
for those of you and us who were not around to see.
Exactly. The most impressive in the last 30 years.
There
we'll
you
say
go.
That.
We'll say that. That's generous.
Yeah, here in California, launching from Vandenberg. So SpaceX now has a customer for that. Before I get into the other really awesome thing, there are some questions in the chat room. So for those who don't know, I do work as the video guy for SpaceX. I have to say, de facto disclaimer, as we said at the beginning of the show in the slate, and I'll say, oh no, we didn't. I'll put it in the post-production. Okay. While I do work for SpaceX and Spacevidcast are two separate entities. What I say here on Spacevidcast has no bearing on SpaceX whatsoever. SpaceX doesn't sponsor this show. SpaceX has nothing to do with this show. So what I say is my own opinion and not that of SpaceX, and vice versa, right? So what we say here is not the opinion, blah, 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 blah. So legal mumbo-jumbo aside, I was not in the audience. I was not in the crowd. You will very rarely see me on camera because I'm running the video, right? So I'm behind the scenes making sure that all of it flows to ensure that when there are those cheering crowds of people and people are excited, you're able to watch that live and in real time. And you know that's my job to make sure that video flows to you, to Mission Control, to everyone else. It just works kind of seamlessly. So that's that's where I was throughout all of that. I was actually locked away in a little video control room and kind of separated from the whole thing.
It was kind of funny because he'd come home and say, so what did it look like?
I'll tell you this, it was so loud. I was on the second floor and that Mission Control is kind of on the first floor. It was so loud we could hear the roar of applause through the concrete walls into the actual studio on the second floor. Like loud, not like a little distant rumble, like clear as day. Everyone erupted in applause.
That's
multiple
very
times.
Cool.
That's how loud that was.
That's very
if
cool.
you couldn't get a gauge of how much excitement there was,
right?
That's what it felt like.
Right.
The other big announcement that came out of SpaceX, and I think we were just watching LA Space Salon, Rick Tumlinson.
Yep.
He put this best. And this is a pretty big deal. SpaceX announced a partnership with Bigelow to carry crew up to the Bigelow HABs.
Yes.
So the reason this is a big deal is that where's the government?
Right.
There's, right now.
Here's a private company who's going to launch a private rocket to a private station
with private citizens.
Hello?
I can't recall a time in human history where it was a purely privatized workflow all the way through up to a space station.
Unbelievable.
Including the space station, right? Private space station, private rocket, private crew, whole thing. I'm not saying government's bad, but holy cow, think about the ramifications of that. That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is truly awesome.
That did give me pause when he was saying that. I kind of went,
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And for you Spacevidcast Epic subscribers, that video will be up sometime shortly. So the first, I want to say 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes was just kind of the general speech.
Right.
That'll be available to everyone, but only Epic gets the QA session. And that was the interesting part.
That was crazy.
Oh my goodness. He got some amazing conversation going. So if you're not an Epic subscriber, highly suggest doing that.
Even if just for a month, just to get it, because it's worth the $10, let me tell you.
Yeah.
That was insane. And, obviously there's a huge space community out here in LA, in a lot of California, but, particularly here in LA and very pro new space here in the Los Angeles area. And so these space salons, while relatively intimate, I think there was probably no more than 40 people there, very, very interested and each have their sort of fingers in things. So there were SpaceX people were there. I think there were some Maston people there, some X-Corps people there, and then just, a lot of people, and very interested in the space community as a whole, but particularly New Space, who were just drilling Tomlinson about stuff, and it was amazing.
I just want to take pause for a moment and consider what we're seeing. Sometimes it's because space moves a little bit slower and it kind of moves in sections.
Right.
But when you just take a step back and look at the bigger picture, Virgin Galactic about to start engine test firings. SpaceX getting ready, prepping to launch Falcon Heavy type stuff, right? They're building a pad in Vandenberg for that right now as we speak. That pad is being built. One of the most powerful rockets humans have ever built. Not the most powerful, but one of them. SpaceX working with Bigelow on a privatized, Bigelow does the privatized space station, but a truly privatized workflow all the way through from ground to space, including the space station. And by the way, that space station, I believe, is 3 times the volume of the International Space, usable volume is the International Space Station's usable volume or something like that. So this is not a small little dinky thing. This is quite literally huge. Exactly. And as DJ Flux says, there's a lot of spacey goodness happening in the next few years, and this is world-changing stuff that will forever alter the course of humanity. How we look at things in the future will change based on what's happening right here, right now.
Actually, Black Projects in the chat room said, welcome to the future.
A little bit. I think when we move forward 10 years to 2022, and then we look backwards from 2022 to now, we'll wonder how we got by without whatever it is we have, right? And we talk about these really long timelines, but frankly, humans on Mars by 2023 is possible if we choose to do it. SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, Masten Space Systems, Armadillo Aerospace, even, and I know it wasn't popular, but even companies like ATK are changing forever the course of humanity. And this is a really exciting time to be alive. I think this is just as exciting as when we first started putting humans on the moon with the Apollo program.
Wasn't it just a couple of weeks ago when Neil deGrasse Tyson tweeted out that if things keep going the way that they are, that 2012 will only be remembered as the anniversary of things that happened 50 years prior?
So we need to take a break here, but I get into debates.
I think maybe somebody should tweet him and be like,
I tweeted him.
What up now?
Let's do this. Let's come back. I want to talk about viewer comments when we come back, but let's come back with 2 things. Let's come back with that, talk about that, and there is a Venus transit happening, and that's important too, so let's talk about that. So quick break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap up the show.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So we'll be right back, guys. All right. Now, before we went to break, we were talking about a tweet that Neil deGrasse Tyson had, which was something along the lines of, if 2012 keeps shaping up as it is, we're going to be looking back at this as a series of past accomplishments and not.
Right.
And there were some interesting comments in the chat room during break. One of them was from Zigger, saying, I'm guessing that Neil deGrasse Tyson is mostly excited by exploring, by getting out further than low Earth orbit, which is why he's so quick to dismiss all the recent accomplishments. Okay, and that's fair, right? I mean, I agree. We need to get past low Earth orbit. We need to get onto Mars and beyond. We don't just stop at Mars. We keep going. We keep going and going and going. And I feel like he dismisses what's happening in the private sector, and he concentrates and focuses so much on NASA as the inspiring force. But I would argue this last week, SpaceX has done more to inspire than NASA has.
I have had friends and family around the country, because I apologize, that's where most of my friends and family are, but at least around our country, text me, tweet at me, send me emails talking about, hey, SpaceX, like, they just did that really cool thing, right? And it's been kind of overwhelming with people that I've sort of lost touch with or what have you, who are just like, yeah, my kid was really interested in watching that. I didn't even know it was going on. Or, hey, this was really cool. I had a great conversation at work the other day because of this. And it's just been really interesting to kind of see exactly what you're saying, just the overwhelming kind of response from people who are not inside of the space community, who are reignited by this, who are reinterested and I keep thinking reimagined, but that's not quite the word that I want. But, that something gets reignited in them, that it's been very interesting to see the response. It's been really cool.
In true low Earth orbit, right? So it's not going to Mars.
Yes.
It's not going to the moon. It's not going beyond. It's not pushing the boundaries. Yet, it's the first step, though. Remember, this is the first time a private company has done this, ever. And whether you love or hate them, private companies, SpaceX is doing this out of pure you see the passion in those videos. And understand, I'm not digging on NASA. SpaceX could not have done this without NASA, right? It's freaking International Space Station.
Right.
We're standing on the shoulders of giants. But the way SpaceX tells the story is far more engaging than the way NASA tells the story.
Right.
For no good reason, right? I mean, NASA could tell that story if they could if they wanted to, but politics gets involved, and that's the downfall.
I think it's not necessarily that. Yes, it is different because you need different messages for different people, even though if the actual thing is the same, right? But I think the really cool thing is that it's not NASA per se, but that it's NASA and this other company doing it too. That it's not just governments. That if somebody outside of the government in our country can do it, then somebody outside of the government in another country can do it too.
And I think Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson is slightly disconnected. He grew up in the Apollo era. He remembers that, and he was inspired and awestruck by NASA, by the awesomeness of what NASA did. And keep in mind, here's the thing: NASA still does awesomeness. Awesome. Even today. It's not like they stopped doing awesome things.
No.
And there are even more awesome projects coming out. Truly awesome things. But that's not necessarily what inspires today's generation.
Right.
Companies like SpaceX, where you can look at that and go, I could work there. That could be a real job. You look at NASA and you don't necessarily think you could work there. And you look at it and there's all this political stuff going around. It's not as inspiring. Doesn't mean they're bad. It's just not as inspiring as it once was. But now we have this new entity that is inspiring, that is engaging people. I mean, they're not even. I don't want to say they're not even trying, but it's happening because it is just awesome.
It is kind of
not
cool
to overuse the word.
But NASA, when NASA was first starting out, that SpaceX is kind of what NASA was,
and that's the exciting thing, right? So here we are, this whole new thing, and this is why Dr. Tyson is wrong. This is the whole new beginning of a whole new chapter for humanity. And it's happening before our very eyes. And I don't know how he's missing this. He's completely and totally missing this.
Wasn't it Tumlinson who just said that that SpaceX is redoing history, but better?
Sure.
Right?
That works.
Because somebody came back with that quote and they were like, oh, well, those of us who, don't know history, that we're doomed to repeat it. We're not doomed to repeat it. We're not
But it's not just SpaceX. It's Virgin Galactic. It's SpaceX. It's Orbital. It's Mastin Space Systems.
Learn from all of those mistakes and are moving forward.
We had Dave Mastin on the show talking about how he's going to get us onto the moon and onto Mars using technology pretty much available today, right? All he needs is funding, and he can make that stuff go.
Right.
It's purely a money thing.
Yeah.
When before in history do you have these crazy rocket scientists? Because we love Dave, but he's a crazy rocket scientist.
He is a little bit.
When do you have them just going, you know what? I'm going to do this. We're going to make this happen. This is an awesome time to be alive. This isn't a year of looking backwards. This is the year where everything changes. This is our tipping point. We're in the middle of it now. This is when humanity changes. All right, so enough of my soapbox there. Venus transit.
Okay, so exactly. Ben's going to take a little breather. He's going to center.
And scene.
It's going to be good. Venus transit, for those of you who don't know, this is when we here on Earth can watch Venus go actually between us and the sun. You can watch it as a teeny tiny little dot.
I suggest taking binoculars and looking straight at the sun.
Right. If you can. Now, what you really want to do, much so like a solar eclipse, you want to make sure that your eyes are protected, obviously. But this is a really cool thing that's going on. And unfortunately, not everyone around the world will be able to see it. So I apologize for that. However,
apologize. It's not your fault.
Well, it's not my fault, I suppose. But you can watch it live on the web. NASA Edge is actually out in Hawaii, so they will get the full-blown 6 hours worth.
NASA, if you need a techie.
They know. Blair, Chris, hi.
Fly me out. I'm available right now. I think I earned some vacation time.
You'll be able to see it via the web if it's completely, if you're not in an area where you'll be seeing it at all.
No clouds.
Right, exactly. But there's a bunch of different observatories, of course, across the country, at least in the U.S., who are also doing some special showings. And if you have a telescope with a really cool sun lens, what is that lens particular called? But sort of like a welder's lens kind of thing, because you want to make sure that you don't burn your eyes out, is essentially what it comes down to. You should be able to watch it. It should take about 6 hours to go from one side to the other, and depending on where you are on the Earth, like in Hawaii, it almost makes a loop-de-loop. As opposed to going straight across, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple different websites. I'll post them in the wiki where you can check out if you'll be able to see it in your area, and if not, the different websites that you can go to see it.
All right, so just to be clear.
And it's the last time it'll happen in the next, 100 some odd years.
So we don't get sued. Do not ever stare at the sun.
Yeah.
And never stare at the sun with binoculars, ever. That's just dumb. Don't do that. So if you're going to watch the Venus transit, make sure you do it with eye protection. And a couple things to note. This is not going to be like a solar eclipse.
Solar filters, thank you, guys.
It's not going to be like the sun disappears. You're going to probably want to go to an observatory to see this, because it will be a little dot.
A little dot.
Venus is very, very far away from us. It's going to be a little dot going across the sun. So let's be clear on what you're going to see.
Right.
But it's, as you mentioned, the last time in the next 100 years or so you're going to be able to see it. So unless you're a Kurzweilian, last time in your lifetime you're going to see it.
There you go.
Well, maybe
we love the Kurzweilians.
All right. For those who don't know, Kurzweilians believe that technology will advance to a point where humans will be able to live essentially forever. So let's do, as much time as we have left, let's do a few viewer comments from last week's show, which was about... it wasn't last week's show.
No,
it was
ATK
last show we
did
did.
The Liberty
rocket.
There you go.
So this one is from Helios Works AV. I agree with this. No matter how rotten a mega government military contractor might be, the engineers, designers, technicians, and crew are still passionate, talented people. And this was talking about giving ATK a chance.
Yes.
A lot of engineers do not like ATK because of the power they wield in Congress.
Right.
And they've used that power to have written into law different things that need to be put onto rockets.
Right.
So it binds NASA's hands. Instead of using the technology the rocket scientists want to use, they're required to use technology that ATK had written into law. So engineers just don't like ATK because of that.
Right.
What I'm saying is it looks to me like a new ATK is being born. They don't seem to be doing that same thing, at least not on the surface. Some people are arguing, saying, well, there's this down select thing going on. Maybe they are. But let's give them a chance. This is a new era. They are paying for Liberty out of pocket. They brought it this far out of their own pocket. Let's give them a chance. So that's where that comes from.
It'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. But right now, it looks very promising.
Speaking of that same point, I don't think they would have a chance in a fair contest. So in other words, if ATK were up against, say, SpaceX, Orbital, Blue Origins, companies like that, as defense contractors that know how to play DC pretty well, don't surprised if they win without actually succeeding. That's from Salmon Leap 02. The point basically being they're going to win because they'll go back to their dirty old tricks, write it into law that you have to use a certain technology, and once again, it will end up being like Constellation. This Senate launch system, it has about a year's worth of life left in it, maybe 2 years before it gets canceled. Space launch system has about 2 years worth of life left in it before. I don't think anyone in the industry actually expects that to get built. Right? All right. Anyhow, so that was, a valid comment, right? We really don't know. With the people I have talked with at ATK, and keep in mind, they don't sponsor the show. They don't. We're not getting money from them. There's no incentive for us to say nice things about ATK. I have met these people. They're very passionate. They believe in what they're doing. They're good people.
I definitely do not get a snake oil salesman feel out of any of them.
Not at all. Not at all.
I just want to be really clear on that.
Hey, Spacevidcasters, does anyone know of a phone app and that shows and tracks launch schedules? So for Windows Phone, no. In fact, I really only, there's one for Android, but really the one I want to highlight is on iOS devices. So iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, so forth and so on. And that is an application called Mission Clock from Latency Zero. It is hands down, the best application to track launches. Cool. It's what I use to track even launches that I'm involved in. Right? It just gives you all the data. It's pretty amazing. It's a fantastic app, and it's not that expensive. Available in the App Store. Just search for Mission Clock, one word.
But even if you have a Windows phone, if you have a touch, you can put it on there too.
Do you have an iPod Touch?
Yeah,
exactly. Well, you can't put it on a Windows phone at all. So here's one went through your head when Liberty launched with this recent PR effort. Oh, that's where the rapid downsize proposals are coming from. So this goes back to the idea of NASA is trying to kind of eliminate funding. NASA's trying to, instead of having a bunch of different private companies compete for cargo and crew to the space station, they're trying to downsize it to just a small handful or maybe even one.
Right.
And basically the entire industry is saying that is a terrible, terrible idea. Don't do that. And so there's some thought process that it's coming from ATK, but there's no proof to that, right? I mean, it's just people kind of speculating. So, but who knows? Maybe. I certainly don't know.
Whatever makes space better.
I thought this was an interesting comment and something to contemplate. This is from Quantum G. He says, what free market? NASA decides who wins. NASA is a government agency. So when we think about it, a lot of these companies are getting a lot of funding from NASA, including, but not limited to, SpaceX. So would SpaceX be where they're at right now without the $1 billion contract from NASA?
Yeah, but they didn't get the money until they proved that they could do it.
No, that's not entirely true.
They got some money, but they didn't get
my understanding is like $300 million. I'd have to go look it up, but
but comparatively, that's a small amount.
Yes, but where would they be without it? Is the point? Would they still be?
Well,
in a position
do we really need Tesla? I mean, come on.
Well, that's still a lot more than what Elon's put in.
I know.
So, and other companies, let's see, Sierra Nevada, where would they be? Where
right.
would Blue Origin be? Where would, anyone be? So I think it's a valid point to kind of consider what happens. Yes, SpaceX is a private company, but they are taking government funds and have a government contract.
Right.
So there is still that tie. And that's why I think the Bigelow news was such a big deal. But where would they be without NASA?
Right.
And are they how tied to NASA are they? If NASA said, okay, we're done. Tomorrow, ATK wins. We're done. Everyone else go away. Well, what happens to SpaceX?
Right.
I have no idea. I have no inside information, actually, whatsoever.
Oh, well.
This one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this was, I basically said that the maker community wouldn't be able, my point is the maker community can do things like CubeSats, but they won't be able to do payloads large enough to put humans into space.
Right.
And I got some people who kind of agree in the next 20 years. They may be able to do it someday. I'm just saying in the next decade or two.
Right.
That's not something maker community is going to be able to do. They're not going to be able to do something that will push the forefront of space forward. Nanosats are awesome. I'm
Right.
not saying nanosats are bad,
Right.
but they're not pushing the boundary of space.
Right.
Taiwan John 88 says, the maker community will give you a pleasant surprise sooner than you think. I'm writing this with more computing power than all NASA had for the Apollo program. Composite materials hadn't been invented, and now they're commonplace. Rocket motors used to be rocket science, but now you can buy various models off the shelf from at least a half a dozen different vendors. It's only a matter of time, and then it's not going to be 2 decades. And I still disagree. If you look at what happened with SpaceX, they weren't able to really even move forward to Falcon 1 until a multimillionaire came in and dropped $100 million on the company, and they were able to start making rocket engines powerful enough to do this stuff.
Right.
It was not a maker thing at that point. It certainly started as a garage project, but in order to get to where they're at, they had to leave the garage. They had to stop being a maker thing and became the SpaceX we know today. And that was no small feat. It took a decade to get to that point, to this point, I'm sorry. So I don't think the maker community is going to do nothing. They're just not going to be able to do something to that level.
In the next 20 years.
In the next 20. And actually, this brings up the next. So Tom Mueller of SpaceX, who is one of the chief designers of the rocket engine, was building liquid-fueled rocket engines in his garage before he met that crazy South African millionaire, which I think is the key point here. He met a crazy South African millionaire who wanted to put flowers on Mars. Rocket science can come out of the maker community, so forth and so on. So, yes, it can come out of it, but it won't be part of it.
Well, somebody was quoting John Carmack in the chat room saying that, rockets are simple, but they're not easy.
That's true.
Not everything that's simple is easy.
A turbo pump, it's a very simple concept. Good luck building one big enough to make an engine with enough thrust to put a human into space. That's not an easy thing to do. It's simple, but it is not easy. And that will not happen in your garage. And if it is happening in your garage, make sure I live nowhere near you, because when things go wrong, they go very, very wrong.
Is that why we live in an apartment?
That's why we live in an apartment, and hopefully no one is doing anything in your garage. Exactly. All right, I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Once again, Spacevidcast Epic is available. Spacevidcast.com/epic. You're going to get access to exclusive content, including what's coming up next, which is Spacevidcast After Dark, because it's always dark somewhere. That's available only to Spacevidcast Epic subscribers. You have gigs and gigs and gigs of content just for you. The Epic subscription's $10 a month or $100 a year, and it helps pay for Spacevidcast so we can keep bringing epic awesomeness to you, hopefully live, shows like this, space pods, LA Space Salons, AIAA meetings, so forth and so on.
Space upsises.
Space up-I. I'd like to thank everyone for watching this week, and we'll see you soon.